Hey guys, Zach with Zach's GT Garage here. Today, I'm going to show you how to replace your front brake pads on your 2011 through 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee. So let's get started. So first, you're going to want to loosen up the lug nuts. And then if you have a special key lug nut, then you're going to want to get that to loosen that lug nut as well. Then you're going to want to look at your jack points so that way you can jack up the front end of the car and put it on jack stands. Now, if you're watching this and you do this from home, something goes wrong, I am not responsible for what happens. Now with the vehicle jacked up and the lug nuts loosened, go ahead and pull all the lug nuts out of the wheel. And then you can go ahead and remove the wheel and set it aside. I just put it next to the car so that way I have something to sit on. Now, as you can see here, the brake pads are pretty low. They're not all the way gone, but they're pretty low, but we're going to go ahead and just replace them anyway. So now, to access the Allen key, you have this little cap right here with a flathead screwdriver. Just go ahead and pop it out. You could probably even pry it out with your hands. That's what I did on the bottom. Now, I already took the top one off, but here's the Allen key. I was used to a bolt, but apparently on these newer cars, they have an Allen key. And I used a 11 Allen key on a socket, and it didn't fit very well, but let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. And as you can see here, it's a little loose, but what I ended up doing is grabbing a Torx, a T55 here, and that seemed to fit a little better. It actually fit in there pretty snug. And that's how I got it loosened. So then there's one more on the bottom that you got to get here on the caliper. Go ahead and get it loosened. Might be a little tight, so just go ahead and kind of pound it with your fist to bust it loose, but it should be on there pretty snug. All right, with those two Allen keys out of the way, go ahead and grab a flathead screwdriver and just insert it in that little slot there just to pry and loosen up the brake pad bracket. Then you can go ahead and wiggle it right off, and then go ahead and you can go ahead and turn it upside down, just set it on top of the rotor, just make sure it's balanced so it doesn't fall and break the brake line. And then the back brake pad is going to be still in there. It's got little metal prongs that lock into the pistons. So you want to go ahead and just pull towards you and it'll pop right out easily. See, there it is. Now we can go ahead and remove the front brake pad from the bracket. Now you can get a really good look to make sure that the brake pad's worn evenly and also get a first glance of how wore out they both are front and back. And those are pretty worn down, so it's a good thing we're going to be replacing them today. So let me go ahead and show you where the holes are for the new back brake pads. They'll go in that hole right there. But right now we need to go ahead and push the pistons back in. So I'm going to use my tool here, my ratchet tool, to push them back in. And this is what it looks like. As I ratchet and tighten it, it's going to push the pistons back in so that way it can make room for the new brake pads. Because since the brake pads wore out, the pistons are pushed out so far. And so you want to push the pistons back in so that way the brand new brake pads have plenty of room to slide over the rotor. And then when you start the car and push on the brake, it'll push the pistons back out where they need to be. And that's how they should look once they're pushed all the way back in. Now with the new back brake pad, go ahead and you might have to squeeze those metal prongs right here. You might just have to squeeze them with some pliers or anything a little bit, just so that way they can fit in there snug and click right into the piston. Once you feel it click in, that's what it'll look like, just like that. Then you can go ahead and put the front brake pad right on the bracket. And here's how it should look from the front. Now what we want to do is go ahead and grab some brake caliper grease so that way we can put it inside those ears, so that way as you press on the brake, the caliper is going to move back and forth from the piston being pushed in and out, and you want to make sure it has plenty of lubricant to move around freely. Then we're going to grab anti-seize and just put them on the tip of the teeth of the bolt here, so that way it is not a pain in the butt to remove or seize to the caliper. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and put the caliper back on the bracket. And when you're putting it back on with the new brake pads, make sure you push the pistons in enough so that way the caliper can just go over the rotor just nice and easy. Then you just want to put a little bit of anti-seize right there so that way it'll get all the way on the threads as you screw it in. And then you want to make sure it's snug and then just kind of give it a tap just to make sure it's tight and make sure it won't back out. And then make sure you do the same thing on the bottom bolt. Allen key. And then just double check your work, make sure everything is tight. And then go ahead and put your new brake bracket on, and this is how it should look. And every car is different, so before you take anything apart, I recommend you take a picture of it so that way you can put it back the way you found it. And with the new brake pads in, go ahead and repeat it on the other side. Then you can go ahead and put the wheels back on. I usually just put the lug nuts on finger tight, and then I usually just tighten them in a star pattern just a little bit until the car is back on the ground when you can torque them down to the right torque setting. Then go ahead and tighten them really good, and then you can go ahead and grab your torque wrench and torque them down to the specific torque setting that it requires. Then put the car back down on the ground and you're done. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like, and stay tuned for more Mustang and Escort GT content.